I'm Jordan Jones, managing editor at Bible Archaeology. You may have seen some recent headlines about an inscribed piece of pottery, King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. These headlines come from an article that was published in Hebrew University's Jerusalem Journal of Archaeology, where Dr. Daniel Vainstub from Gurion University offers a new translation for an inscribed piece of pottery found at the Ophel excavations at the southern end of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem back in 2012. In the article, he argues for a new reading based on his identification of the language of the inscription as Sabaean, engraved in an ancient South Arabian script. This is different from all other interpretations of this inscription, which understand it as Canaanite. And, according to Dr. Vainstub's reading, the inscription records the name of a substance used in incense. And, because this substance was said to be one of the ingredients in the incense mixture used in the Jerusalem temple, Dr. Vainstub sees this inscription as having a direct connection to the temple. And because he interprets this inscription as Sabaean and not Canaanite or Hebrew, Dr. Vainstub interprets this inscription as not just evidence of the spice trade between Jerusalem and southern Arabia, which just so happens to be the understood home of the Kingdom of Sheba, but Dr. Vainstub sees this as actual evidence of the Queen of Sheba's visit to King Solomon, mentioned in 1 Kings 10. An inscription discovered in 2012, announced the week of Easter 2023, is actually evidence to the Queen of Sheba's visit to King Solomon? We've all seen jumps before, but I've never seen this many speculative jumps made in a single piece of pottery with 7 characters inscribed in it. Let's review what we actually know about this piece before we get into Vainstub's proposed reading. The pottery fragment in question was found in 2012 during excavations in the Ophel, an area between the city of David and the Temple Mount, thought to be an administrative center in the 10th century BCE. During the excavations, the remains of 7 pithoi were found in context and have been identified as belonging to 2 types of typical early Iron Age 2A pottery. One of the 7 bear an inscription made before the vessel was fired that runs below the rim. On the basis of the pottery and the building in which the pithoi were found, the finds have been dated to the mid-10th century BCE, or the 900s BCE. There have been multiple interpretations offered for the inscription since the publication of the discovery that have all assumed the script is Canaanite, and this is where Vainstub's argument begins. In his new reading, Vainstub argues that the inscription is engraved in the ancient South Arabian script and that the language is Sabaic, which he argues was the language used in the ancient Kingdom of Sheba. Vainstub also believes the nature of the inscription indicates it was made by a smooth and fluent hand in wet clay that originated in Jerusalem. Thus, he argues that the person responsible for its creation was not only a native speaker from Sheba, but that they were present in Jerusalem and were directly involved in the supply of incense for the temple. So why does he think they were involved in the spice trade? This answer comes from Vainstub's translation of the inscription. Again, the inscription is partial, containing only 7 characters, but from what is present, Dr. Vainstub believes that 3 of the characters spell out the word laudanum in Sabaic. He identifies a 4th character as a signifier for the number 5, while 3 others he has deemed inconclusive. Vainstub argues that the ingredient written as laudanum, a resin known in other ancient sources, should be understood as biblical shehelet, the second ingredient in incense, according to Exodus 30:34, based on the identification of laudanum as shehelet in medieval and post-medieval rabbinic sources. So, if Dr. Vainstub's many new arguments are correct, the language of the inscription is Sabaic, not Canaanite. It references a spice used in incense. It was written by a native Sabaic speaker in Jerusalem. This native Sabaic speaker was involved in the spice trade for the temple. These conclusions alone would be significant discoveries if they prove to be correct. If the inscription is, in fact, ancient South Arabian, it would be the oldest inscription of ancient South Arabian found in Israel to date. Keep in mind, few scholars agree that the inscription is Sabaic. There are no other South Arabian inscriptions dating to this period in Israel. So this would be the first. Likewise, if Vainstub's identification of laudanum is correct, this vessel would be a sign of trade within the region dating to the 10th century BCE. But let's also be abundantly clear about what this inscription does not say. There is absolutely no direct reference to King Solomon or the Queen of Sheba in this inscription. There may be a mention to the spice that was traded in the 10th century, and it might be written in Sabaean, but such a discovery is not likely to garner headlines, except among archaeologists studying 10th century BCE spice trade in Canaan. However, speculate that this was a possible gift from the Queen of Sheba to King Solomon, or that it is physical evidence of the strong cultural ties between Sheba and Israel, and all of a sudden you make international headlines. But please understand, we're not dealing with hard evidence for the Queen of Sheba's visit. We're dealing with a new, speculative reading of an inscription that was discovered in 2012 that might mention the name of a spice. Make sure to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything Bible and archaeology. For all of us here at Bible and Archaeology, I'm Jordan Jones.